stay with us. So we have this big update coming in on the story. Now, India has rejected the allegations made by the Canadian Prime Minister. The Ministry of External Affairs has released a statement on the Canada's allegations, and it says that we have seen and reject the statement of the Canadian Prime Minister in their parliament, as also the statement by their foreign minister. Allegations of Government of India's involvement in any act of violence in Canada are absurd and motivated. Similar allegations were made by the Canadian Prime Minister to our Prime Minister and were completely rejected. We are a democratic polity with a strong commitment to rule of law. Such unsubstantiated allegations seek to shift the focus from Khalistani terrorists and extremists who have been provided shelter in Canada and continue to threaten India's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The inaction of the Canadian government on this matter has been a long-standing and continuing concern. That Canadian political figures have openly expressed sympathy for such elements remains a matter of deep concern. The space given in Canada to a range of illegal activities, including murders, human trafficking, and organized crime, is not new. And we reject any attempts to connect Government of India to such developments. We urge the Government of Canada to take prompt and effective legal action against all anti-India elements operating from their soil. So the strong reaction coming in from the Indian side, who have dismissed all the allegations that were made by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and they have said that allegations of Government of India's involvement in any act of violence in Canada are absolutely absurd and motivated. We have CNN News 18's Abhishek Jha with us on this story. Abhishek, so strong reaction coming in by the MEA, who has straight away dismissed all the allegations and called it absurd and motivated.
Of course, and this absurd and motivated part has largely to do with the local political compulsions that Canadian Prime Minister is dealing with. Yesterday also we saw in House of Commons he was literally being cornered by opposition about the cost of living, rising cost of living, inflation, essential commodities being short in supply and at an unaffordable range of prices. So housing sector in Canada is also in shambles. People are not having enough houses, or at least the cost of living of those shelters have increased tremendously. So these are the allegations that the Canadian government has been dealing with recently, and the opposition is alleging them of not being able to handle those issues in a way that could soothe people's problems or the financial constraints that they have been living in because of the several economic aspects or economic problems that the Canadian people are facing. So probably this could be a distracting policy by the Canadian government to bring in such an international or diplomatic issue to the fore of the domestic issue that could distract people for some time. But the only point is that this is only going to go down badly in India-Canada bilateral ties, and a substantial base of Indian diaspora lives in Canada. About 3 to 4% of population of Canada is contains of Indian diaspora, Sikhs, Punjabis, Christians, Hindus, all sects and people from all lineages from India. They have been living in Canada harmoniously and peacefully for a very long time now. They have been in fact contributed to socio-economic and political life of Canada in a substantial way. There are several leaders, including Justin Trudeau's party, who are from Sikh community or from Indian community. We have recently seen several of leaders of Canada, from Canada visiting India. So in that context, this is going to be a very big problem.
All right, Abhishek, please stay with us. We're also being joined by Siddhant Mishra on the story. Siddhant, how do you think this is going to impact the relation between India and Canada, which were already strained?
Well, look, this is absurd, bizarre, that without having any credible, perhaps evidence in hand, or perhaps sharing some credible evidence with media, the announcement has come from Justin Trudeau. I mean, this is really unexpected because usually what happens is that diplomatic channels are used, or perhaps this announcement could have had happened from the Foreign Minister of Canada, but they decided to do it inside the Parliament, and that too, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke on the issue, and he says that there are credible allegations which further links it to the involvement of Indian government in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Now, this is absurd and bizarre, and perhaps this is the reason that a strong statement has come from Ministry of External Affairs, and Ministry of External Affairs has completely rejected the allegations made by Canada. And in fact, they have also said in a statement which has been issued that such unsubstantiated allegations seek to shift the focus from Khalistani terrorists and extremists who have been provided shelter in Canada and continue to threaten India's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So India is looking at this entire development in a way that the government of Canada is trying to shift the blame. Also, since the government of Canada has not acted against these groups, have not taken any action. Perhaps it's a known fact now that Canada is a safe haven for all these dreaded criminals, gangsters, those who operate in India, perhaps those who execute killings and do all sorts of involved in all sorts of criminal activities are taking shelter in Canada. So time and again, India has been flagging off this to the authorities in Canada, but that how the Canadian soil is being used, used for criminal activities in India. But despite that, no action has been taken by Justin Trudeau's government. This time around, they have come up with a counter allegation saying that Indian government has hands in assassinating Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Mr. Trudeau should also, Anjali, should get into the details and perhaps the background of Mr. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, that how he was the right hand, he was the main person of Khalistani groups in Canada, and perhaps he also carried bounty on him, and there were 10 FIRs registered against Mr. Hardeep Singh Nijjar in India. Despite knowing that, Mr. Trudeau is protecting Hardeep Singh Nijjar on the name of freedom of speech, on the name of freedom of speech, and saying that there are three principles, to protect the sovereignty of Canada, to protect the citizens of Canada, and on these principles only, this action has been taken, that a top Indian diplomat to Canada has been expelled. So this is a fresh standoff, and perhaps this has been escalated by the government of Canada. Obviously, because of the domestic compulsion, Mr. Trudeau doesn't enjoy popularity in Canada. He doesn't even enjoy majority, and this is perhaps the reason that he requires help of these extremist groups in Canada to run his government. He looks at them as a vote bank, and this is the reason that when the entire world is talking about India, when the entire world is talking about decoupling with China, when the entire world is doing more things with India, in terms of trade, in terms of collaboration, in terms of strategic partnerships, whatnot, the Canada is the only country which is taking such a position, which is anti-India, and perhaps making such bizarre, absurd statements against the government of India, accusing government of India of killing Hardeep Singh Nijjar. So this is perhaps going to affect the relations between the two countries. And we all know that the last week there was an announcement where Canada decided not to send the trade mission to India for the trade talks. So trade talks have already been paused. Before that also, on multiple occasions, Indian government had flagged off the issue of Khalistani groups mushrooming in Canada to the authorities in Canada, when none of the cases the arrests have been made. The police in Canada is soft on these groups, and perhaps no arrest happens, no action takes place on such groups. And the peaceful Hindu patriotic community in Canada is constantly living in fear because of Justin Trudeau.